What's going on, everybody? Welcome back to the channel. Today's daily recap is on a trade I did on JDCG stock. The date of this recording is February 12th, if you want to reference it from a future date that you're watching this video. But it's a penny stock, and it was a frustrating one because, as the title said, I sold too early before the squeeze. And so I believe that you can learn something from this video if you're watching it. I am not a guru. I'm more like a furu, and I'm not ashamed to say that because I'm still learning. But you can learn from my mistakes, and just like anything in life, if you can learn from somebody else's mistakes, that's better than making it yourself, right? And so I'm keeping it real. If you know, I have the 25K day trade challenge this year. If you want to watch those other videos and follow future videos to see how that progress is going. But briefly, I am in a big drawdown, and so most of my account is tied up in various stocks that I'm bag holding. And so I've been relegated to trade penny stocks, which I started off trading penny stocks. So it's like coming back to that bad relationship that you had, but you're trying to make it better. It's just like, but sometimes it reminds you why you left that relationship. But anyways, you just can't stay away, right? Because sometimes it's just the reward is just so good. Anyways, I digress. But like I said today, I traded JDCG. The price of the stock pre-market was ranging from a pre-market high of 212 and a pre-market low of 131. So it spiked up to 215 from 131 in the pre-market. And at the open, it was sitting at around 175. I took an initial trade here because if you guys don't know, I like to trade the 5 minute orb. And so I took this little trade here. This is like a 5 minute candle, but it seems rather big. I don't remember it being that big, but probably because it has that wick right there. But I know I took a little scalp here and I made a little like $3. So anyways, but that's not really the trade I wanted to highlight because I went back into this trade midday, and I got in here when it was breaking the pre-market high. So it pumped up, it did a retest, and it tried to break out here, and then it dropped here, but I actually got in later. So I got in, and I started off with just small size of about 100 shares, 200 shares, and instead of just getting stopped out, if you watch my other videos, and what you need to take from this too, if you're watching, is it's better to get stopped out with 200 shares, putting a stop loss, for instance, below the previous day's high. So the previous day's high was 211 and it broke out. And if you're trying to do a retest thinking that, oh, maybe it's going to continue, it failed and it had that flush. But if you were going to attempt to do it, at least put your stop appropriately and get stopped out appropriately. Um, even if it's down here, at least you have a stop that's appropriate to where if this fails. Because, like you see, what happened is I didn't have a stop, or I was just, thinking I only have small size on this and maybe I can average down. And actually started to try to do that. I bought a few more shares and then it flushed. And so not having a stop doesn't protect you from these type of events. When it flushes like this, it doesn't protect you. It just makes you now have to wait. If you have opportunity this size, you can do it, to size down, but it's not recommended and it's bad practice and it's easier said than done, but it's something that hopefully you can learn ahead of time not to do. If you follow rules well, you'll do fine. Knowing, like, first of all, have a stop, because you can learn not to get flushed to the point that now you had an entry way up here to, let's say, 210, and now the stock price is here at 178. So you're just bag holding at this point. You're just praying and wishing and hoping that price returns. And so you can either average down and try to get closer, but it's not really a good idea to basically add on to a losing trade or to a wrong thesis. If you were trading a breakout and that was your thesis and your idea and your reason to enter this trade is that you think it's going to go higher, then if it fails, then you need to get out. There's no need for you to stick into this trade, and now you're like trying to negotiate and think about, okay, well, what's going to happen next. It's like you should just get out. So I didn't get out. Again, this is something I struggle with and something I keep making a mistake on that's going to cost me, right? And so it did cost me. Again, you can lose money, but you can lose on opportunity cost. Because if I got stopped out and if I still felt like this is some sort of valid trade, and I felt like, okay, it's got broke this support, broke this support, broke this support, and finally I'm still watching it and I see like, oh wow, it really held this support. And now it's actually moving up, right? There's not a lot of selling pressure. Now there's more buying pressure. You could have just took a low risk and a higher reward if you target even just the gap fill here, or just, after this flush, you try to reach here at back to $2, but you got here at 159. That's 40-cent move that you could have captured if you just stopped out, right? And so again, that's something that I need to keep working on. But where I entered and where I basically averaged down to, I entered at like 215. Like I said, I was trying to prepare myself for this breakout. And then I ended up not having a stop, but I averaged down to about $2, and then it flushed on me, and then I didn't have any more money to add to the position because, like I said, I was bag holding, and so the amount of um, capital that I had available to me is very small. So my max share size for this trade was 800 shares. And so because I was adding in this consolidation, which is like, I don't even know why. That's another thing. Looking back in retrospect, it's like it failed, right? The pre market high, and even if I take this pre-market high here and put it down here at 208, it failed. Why would I keep adding, right? Trying to be like, okay, I got to average to $2 or whatever, but then it's already below the pre-market high. It failed already. Like, I don't know why I was thinking that in the moment. I probably didn't see that. Um, And so I don't know. But again, you need to be aware of why you're entering, the reason you're entering, and why you're going to exit. So don't add on to a losing trade and don't and have stops. And so now I'm at 200. Okay, so I'm at 200. Let me just use the paper trade to put in so that we can kind of get an idea of what the price points would have been at. So let's set $2. That was my average. I had 800 shares. All right. So now I was thinking like, okay, let me just try to just watch this thing because I hate to lose. If you watch my other videos, I hate to lose, man. So I dig myself a digger ditch. I could have just got out, for instance, before I even added 300 shares. Even if I did, just get out. If I had to stop, it would have been $30 or $40, whatever, $50, right? But let's say I got back in, and let's say I got in at 160, and then I put in the $80 behind below this support here, and then I target just back to $2. That would have been $320 right there, you know? Let's say I try to sell it before the close. It don't matter. Like, look, I would have made $200. I lost $30. I made 200. Like, it would have been a good trade. So because again, I didn't have a stop, I paid for it. And now for the rest of the market, I was just holding this position because I was like, at this point, I wasn't ready to take a L. I was like, you know, looking at level twos, and I was just looking at it, and then um, it wasn't looking good. But then I was like, okay, I was looking at the level two, and I was actually seeing some movement, and then it was just like, I'm just gonna hold it. I'm just gonna hold on to it. And so I held on to it. And then as you see here, it just kept creeping up. And after hours, it kept creeping up. And then I saw it on the level two that, you know, there's something's going on with this stock. And let me know in the comments how you see that, because, you know, I haven't mastered that obviously, but it's like you do get a sense in the level two that, this thing's not done. Like there's still some buying. I didn't really see any heavy selling pressure, and you can kind of see from the candles too. Like there wasn't that much selling pressure, but on the level two, it was just like constantly, just moving along, and so that's why I was like holding on, and I was like, okay, maybe this is gonna go up to my targets, because in my mind I was watching it and I was like, let me go and put some sell targets. So I put some sell orders. So I was at 200. So I put some sell orders, looking at the level two at like 209, and then I put another at 2 219, because there were at 220, 210. There was some sell orders. So I figured, okay, let me just put it below there, and then I put at 225. I mean, I was just thinking right here, you know. I mean, I initially I was trying to capture this 240 as the idea of it to go up, and then as I looked at the chart, and I saw when it was here that there was a little pattern when it was here. I was like, okay, it was holding, and then it failed. All right, but it was holding it was holding the trend, and then it failed. And I saw at the top there was some resistance, so I created this line, and I was like, okay, this is a potential leg up. So when this flushed on me, I was actually thinking, well, I think it's going to make another leg up. So that's what I was thinking. And so when it broke down here, I was like, oh, it broke the trend, right? But then I looked at the level two, and I saw that there's some movement, and I was looking at the VWAP, and I was just like, okay, if it can get to VWAP, it failed and tried it a few times. I was like, there might be a chance. And so after hours with penny stocks, sometimes they actually move more than in the intraday. So anyways, um I was had my price targets. I was just like ready to hold, even if it was overnight. But the psychology, when you're bag holding a stock, there's a psychology that happens. Is that you've been holding it for throughout the intraday, throughout this time, you're watching it, and when the price starts getting closer to your targets, even though like I knew I was pretty confident it would hit my targets, and this area right here, like that would have hit all my targets, you know. And then it dropped, but it would have hit all my targets that I set for myself. But in fact, it even went higher. It squeezed even higher. And in retrospect, like I said, hindsight is 2020. You kind of looking back and you're looking at the chart now and you're just like, okay, this thing broke the trend, but then it it created a new trend and it's been holding up, right? And then you have VWAP here that's being tested, and then it broke out. So the psychology and understanding behind that is that you're understanding that there's people who are shorting the stock. They shorted it here. This one came up, they shorted it here. So there's a lot of people that possibly were shorting it at this level. So understand they were shorting it around here at this level right there. So this level right here. So now that it tried to and took some, it dropped, but then they felt the pressure here, and it's like some 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 got squeezed out, then it just squeezed up here, and it almost created like a cup and handle pattern right here, to where it just broke out even more. And again, it's always hindsight, but I mean, sometimes that's how you learn and how we have to learn, and why I encourage you to journal if you're not journaling, and why I'm doing this video for myself, but also hopefully to help others, because you could see a lot more after the fact. And the more that you do this and you train your mind and you get used to pattern recognition, the more and more you're going to just have more conviction to hold on to it. Because I had the idea, I made a mistake, but I saw like, okay, this something's going on with this stock, right? There's VWAP. It's testing VWAP, and I'm looking at level two. It's keeps creeping up, and you see like it's holding this trend right here. It's like it's creeping. There's certain thing you just know, but you know, I didn't have the conviction. Yeah, but it 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 broke the VWAP broke out, and then it consolidated a little bit, and then it just you know spiked up, and then um, I sold way too early, and the reason why I sold, to be honest, is because I was watching the level two, and I saw the bid. There was a large bid come in, and all of a sudden it was just like coming in, and I was like, oh, dang! And then I saw the bid disappear, and so with penny stocks, I know how fast they can flush too. And so that's why I said, like I said in the beginning of the video, like it's like returning to your old girlfriend, and you got traumatized. If you've been in bad relationships, you know how it is. It's kind of like, oh crap, no, I don't want to deal with this again, because sometimes it just craps on you. So I saw that, and I know how fast it can dump, and so it triggered an emotion in me to just be like, I better sell everything, just sell everything, because like at least I can just be green, make my money and not be negative, because I was in such a big drawdown too, psychologically, that I didn't want to lose what I got. And so I sold at like 3, 4, 5 cents. I was just like panicking because see how it dropped here, right? So it peaked here, and then I saw that the bid just left, and I was just like, oh no. So, but next thing y'all know, once I sold, it was just it just went parabolic. You see that? It just, I mean, it went up pretty big, considerable, like 20, 25, 30 cents right here. And so, like I said, my sell order was 25, 19. I had not I spread out the 800 shares to kind of like get some fills, and it would have hit all of my targets, but instead, due to being paper handed, just psychologically, um, not not really looking at the big picture, but because I was um, bag holding this stock for most of the day, I missed out on the big move in the after hours. And so that lesson that I want to just recap and once again reinforce is that we really have to have some stop losses to know why you're getting into this trade. If you're getting into this trade for the breakout of the pre-market high, which it broke out already, but whether it was right to get into it or not, it was a fall, it was a sharp flush. Maybe I shouldn't even have tried to consider it, but the point is, whether you do or not, you should have had a stop loss that that would have been appropriate. So if I got in at 210, I would have had a stop loss here, whatever your max loss is. And mind you, I didn't even have 800 shares at the time, right? I started out like 200 shares. I could have got a $24 loss if I had just, put it down at this wick, or even right here at this last wick right here. It would have been $34 loss. And then I wouldn't have had to try to add 600 more shares and have it flush on me. Instead, I could have re-entered at lower risk or even the same risk, but have more profit, right? So let's say I went in with 500 shares. It's 175, even just going back to VWAP, you know, to before the close of the session. So that's the lesson there. The second lesson is if you're bag holding, no, psychologically, I can't speak for everybody, but it will affect you because you're just hoping, wishing, and praying that the price returns at your level. And when it does, you're more apt to sell right away because you don't want to lose it because you've been in the drawdown for so long that you're psychologically might not be ready, even if it's gonna make a bigger move, you know, because you're just you're just kind of already emotionally drained at that point. And then for me personally, because I've worked with penny stocks before, I just had the PTSD kick in. And like I said, I saw the level two, I saw the bid get eaten up and was thinking, oh no, seller's going to come in and just flush this thing. And to a certain degree, it did happen here, but it didn't happen here. And because my entry was so close to that level, I didn't have that much room to react. But if I did see that here and I reacted, then I had maybe more time to, and I probably would have already trailed my stop anyway. So normally I would have trailed my stop right here. And then with 800 shares, at least I would get $64 and, and and then it flushed me out. But I thought I definitely missed the squeeze. It was so frustrating because it happened so quick. I've been waiting and waiting and watching this thing, and then I just quickly sold as fast as I could, and in a matter of seconds, less than a minute, whatever, few minutes, next thing you know, this thing's just going crazy. So it was just so frustrating. And now looking at it even more, seeing how it just, you know, went even higher here. It's just so frustrating. But again, hindsight's 2020, and it's all about learning from your mistakes. And hopefully, I can learn from my mistakes. But if you got some value from this video, hopefully you learned something. Hopefully you got some insight. Again, I'm not a guru. I'm just a furu. I'm just a average, retail degenerate, whatever you want to call it. But I'm not putting myself down because I'm just keeping it real. I'm trying to learn, trying to do my best to get better. And this is the process I'm taking. And if you got value, hopefully you can learn from my mistakes, learn from the process, be encouraged. You're not alone. You know, we're all just trying to make it. And we know if you entered into this thing after listening to all the gurus and whatnot, that only a few people make it. So you really gotta take time and take it seriously. And it's not gambling. I'm not trying to gamble. I'm trying to really learn, trying to get skills, examine myself in the process because a lot of my mistakes are just my lack of discipline and self control. And that's why I'm not executing the way I should. But again, if you got value, please like, subscribe, leave a comment, let me know what you think. I appreciate any feedback. And if you want to follow the 25K day trading journey, you can do so. I'm going to post a monthly recap um, and try to post daily recaps throughout the week and things that I learned. Um, and hopefully, again, you get value. But until next time, God bless.